I'm just going to get the live stream going. I'm a little rusty on it, so just give me a second on that.
Okay. We'll wait confirmation from you, Rob, that we're good to go.
Yeah, I'll just double check. It looks like we're streaming. I'm just double checking. And I think we are good to go.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and call the October meeting of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to order. I am Keith Norris. I'm the vice chair of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, filling in this evening for Dylan McDowell, our chair, who unfortunately was unable to make it due to a work conflict that he had. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Excited to have everybody participating this evening, and we'll start off with our roll call. And I will start with Rick.
Here.
Excellent.
I'm
Alan?
I'm here.
Woody?
Present.
And Debbie.
Here.
Excellent. And I think we've got Al Holland and Joan Lloyd also are absent this evening. And to start off with, we'll start with approval of our September meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments on those? Debbie?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I saw was we had that training about not discussing things outside of the board meeting without being public. And it doesn't say anywhere that the letter was going to have a subcommittee or anything like that. It doesn't say that we decided we would write it together. And we did communicate outside the board. It's probably being nitpicky, but I just thought since I had that training, I should probably mention that.
Excellent. Do you know where that would be?
It was the first or second. I don't remember. It was the paragraph about.
Yep. Value and spread writing a letter. And so you think just maybe noting in there that we deemed a committee of
Subcommittee of
you, me, and Dylan would write that letter and bring it back to the board.
Yeah.
Just for clarity's sake. Okay. We'll make note of that, Rob. I assume that's a notation you can kind of make in those minutes, and get that correction made. Perfect. Thank you. And I think that's a good note, Debbie, for clarity's purposes since we did just go through those public meetings. We were good on having that as a committee and us working together since it's below a quorum on those, but
yeah.
And then we're bringing it back to the board this evening. So thank you for that note. Any other notes on the minutes? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
In a second.
Second.
Excellent. Thank you, Woody. All in favor of approving the September 2023 minutes of the spread?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you very much. Minutes approved. We will move on to public comment period. Is anybody here this evening to provide public comment on anything not on our agenda?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pamela Garland. I am here representing Salem Seekers. And I just had a quick question about the comprehensive park master plan. And I was looking it up online. I'm trying to fill out some grant information. And I'm wondering if there is a more updated version or if the most recent version is from the May 2013.
That is the most recent version, and I will, if that needs to be corrected, Rob, let me know, but I believe 2013 is the most recent version, Pamela, that is available online. And that is something that we are, I think next year planning to start revising under the new our Salem plan. We'll be developing a new master plan. I believe that process will begin at some point next year.
This is Pamela. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Pamela,
that.
sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, you said my name correctly.
Did
I
I?
was just
Okay.
introducing myself. Yeah, no,
Just
no,
saying
no,
you
you're
come
good.
back in.
Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Pamela. Thanks for checking. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? All righty. We'll move forward then to Counselor Varney, our liaison to the City Council, and turn it over to you, Counselor Varney, for any updates you have from us from City Council.
Wow. Can everyone hear me okay? Because I didn't check my sound and I'm using a new speaker.
We're good.
Yay, yay. Thank you. Most recently, I guess the last couple of council meetings back in September on the 25th, we had deliberations to remove overlay zones along commercial, kind of between where Quan's is, down through the, further down through the Fairmont area, but on Commercial Street. And the purpose for it was to allow mixed use in that core transit area. And it was pretty controversial. And what we ended up doing, the overlay zones were zones that were established in the mid to late 80s to restrict the height of buildings along commercial, okay? And so they were in conflict with our mixed use zones that we adopted with the our Salem comprehensive plan. And so this was to, the purpose of removing these overlay zones was to allow greater height and mixed use buildings along commercial in those areas. And so with a few compromises, thanks to Councilor Nishioka from Ward 2, she proposed that we eliminate, there were 3 zones, zones 3 through 5, to eliminate those zones. And the reason those could be eliminated fairly easily was number one, there were no residential properties abutting the commercial buildings in those zones. And in zone 4, there were some residential properties close to them, but because of the setbacks, those buildings were still restricted to 35 feet. So that's why we were able to remove it, because there were already restrictions. The original overlay zones were restricted building height to 35 feet. And then in zones 1 and 2, which is up by Quan's more and where the new Hunsaker Dental is going in, instead of allowing up to 65 feet, we restricted it to 45 feet. So that's how we came to a compromise. It was increased, but not as much as our Salem would have allowed. Also at that meeting, one thing I wanted to mention, since we all love our trees, was there was an application to divide 20.5 acres into 3 parcels. I think it was in Southeast. And there were 487 trees on that property, according to the tree conservation plan. And I wanted to mention it because, let's see, in our code, if an arborist, if they submit an arborist report with the application to modify the critical root zone, then they can do so, because we require that a 30% maximum of the critical root zone can be disturbed. And so this arborist allowed 40% for the non-significant trees, and that allowed them to save 7 more trees on this property. So I just wanted to point out of 75 significant trees on the property, they only had to remove 10 of them. And then for all those trees, the 487, they actually preserved 86% of the trees on those 3 parcels they divided it into. So I thought that was pretty cool, where the arborist report compromised to allow us to save more trees. So I mentioned that at the council meeting. Let's see, October 3rd was the Public Works Operations Building opening, and Rob may be talking about that more. I missed it. I was up in Montana, unfortunately, but the photos were great. And that Public Works building, if you haven't had a chance to go see it, I mean, you may all have. I mean, it's just fantastic, all the natural elements. And I really am excited about the community microgrid that was funded through the partnership with PGE. So and this will connect the solar panels on top to the main grid, and it will also allow us to have a kind of a storage for outages in part of it that's called the Salem Smart Power Center. So just tying into using solar power, and that was pretty exciting. October 5th, I was out of town, so I missed our first flight, commercial flight out of our airport with Avelo. You've probably seen some articles on that. And then most recently at our October 9th City Council meeting, I presented the proclamation for National Walk to a Park Day to Dylan at the meeting. And National Walk to Park Day advocates and brings awareness to the need for all of us to have parks within a 10-minute walk. And if you look at a map, city map of all our parks, you can see how there are areas where we're spread out pretty well, but then there are other areas that have quite a ways where the houses, people don't live that close to the parks. I think it's 51% that either do or don't. So close to half of the people don't live within a 10-minute walk of parks. And then the day after that city council meeting was the actual National Walk to Park Day. And Dylan and I and Councilor Stapleton and Mayor Hoy and a number of city staff, Rob was there. We walked from Liberty Elementary over to Wendy Kroger Park. I've never been to that park. It has a lot of really cool, huge oak trees in it. I went up and gave this one a big hug. Well, I couldn't get my arms even a fifth around it. But anyway, that was fun. And part of that walk was we walked with the elementary students. I think it was supposed to be third grade, but I think the students ended up being fifth graders because they looked older, but maybe I'm just older. Anyway, that was really fun. The other thing that came up at the October 9th City Council meeting was the proposed Unified Development Code amendment to comply with the new state requirements for the climate-friendly and equitable communities. And what it is it requires mitigation when developing parking lots greater than a half an acre. And I don't remember if I brought this up the last time that we met, because I went to the Planning Commission's public hearing on this. So in case you haven't heard about it, it requires that mitigation when developing new parking lots bigger than half an acre. And it requires either for mitigation, they have to have, 30-40% tree canopy cover within, I don't have it in front of me. I want to say 15 years, or they can install solar panels someplace so that equates to a half of a kilowatt or whatever they call it per parking space in production, or they can put money into a fund which will provide for us solar panels, et cetera, for our low-income housing areas. So it also talks about converting existing parking lots to park and rides. And the other thing that was kind of thrown in that I thought was interesting, it was also addressing recent legislation to allow more single room occupancy rental housing. So that's kind of my update. Oh, there will be a public hearing on this proposed Unified Development Code, and I anticipate a lot of interest in it because this is going to affect a lot of areas, and it's not just a single half-acre parking lot. I mean, if you have a development, apartments going in that have a total area, when you combine all of it, greater than half half an acre, these rules would apply. So I think there's going to be a lot of conversation. And there's also, what do we do about areas where there are industrial buildings and trucks and things? So there's going to be a pretty good discussion coming up about it. Let's see, public hearing November 13th on that. And then lastly, this coming Monday, October 16th, is our volunteer recognition event. So I buzzed through some things. Any questions?
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Varney. And I just want to make a note on the proclamation. I think that was great. And I unfortunately was also not able to attend the walk due to some work conflicts that I had, but I know Dylan was able to be there and really enjoyed it. And I think Rick was there as well and had a good time. And so I think Dylan's report is that went excellently and was a good promotional opportunity for our parks and highlighting the value of our parks. And as I know he was hopeful that was something that can continue into future years. So thanks for that proclamation and presenting that to Dylan for the park. So with that, I'll open it up to any other questions for Councilor Varney on those updates. All righty. Well, thank you very much, Councilor Varney, for being here and for keeping us up to date on all things City Council.
Well, little bits and pieces of it. There's a lot going on.
A lot more, I'm sure, but those are good highlights. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll be in the background in case you guys have any questions. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on to board items and presentations, and we will start with Carol over at the Salem Parks Foundation. Carol, I think I saw you signed on. There you are.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
I am Carol Snyder, president of Salem Parks Foundation, and I'm here to deliver our annual report. Our fiscal year ends September 30th, so this is our new year. Salem Parks Foundation is an all-volunteer 501c3 charitable organization, and we have a two-pronged mission: to improve and enhance the city parks of Salem and to advocate for their enjoyment by all citizens and visitors. Our signature project is our neighborhood park grant, offered annually to Salem's neighborhood associations for improvements to their local parks. And once in a while, we take on a special project. Currently, our special project is to raise funds for the restoration of the Eco-Earth Globe in Riverfront Park. Riverfront Park is our most visited park and the site of many events attended by local citizens and tourists. And Eco-Earth is the park's most recognizable landmark, positioned between two other landmarks, the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater and the Peter Courtney Bridge, and it's close to the Hazel Patton Carousel. But Eco-Earth is deteriorating, and its deterioration detracts from the enjoyment of the park and also reflects badly on Salem's image as a vibrant, welcoming city. So in November of 2021, we set out to raise $300,000 in 2 years for the restoration. It's been a more difficult task than we thought it would be. Thus far, we have raised $71,000, mostly from individual donors. We've had a few successful attempts with grant applications, and we have just started approaching local businesses. We're feeling a little discouraged right now, but we're persevering and hope to meet our $300,000 goal by the end of 2024, which means we're moving our timeline to 3 years instead of 2. Our biggest disappointment came from the legislature this year. We had high expectations of receiving a $150,000 grant from the Cultural Resources Economic Fund, or CREF. We were one of 16 statewide projects recommended by the Cultural Advocacy Coalition of Oregon for lottery funding. However, this year, the legislature chose to nearly not function, and very little got done, including lottery fund dispensation. The coalition is currently working hard to secure funding during the upcoming short session, so there's still some hope. We're once again contacting our legislators from Salem, all 6 of them, to support that effort, and we urge you to contact your legislator also. In the meantime, we continued with our neighborhood park grant project, and in June, we granted over $21,000 to neighborhood associations for 7 park projects. They included benches, picnic tables, native plants for ground cover, bike racks, a mitt dispenser, and a piece of outdoor exercise equipment. We also continued with our advocacy mission. We held our annual Take a Walk in the Park event in the spring. We hosted several park information tables at other events, the Salem Service Day, formerly Public Works Day, the Viva Salem Hispanic Celebration, and the Mobility Fair at Center 50 Plus. We also produced 3 newsletters filled with park information along with our donation requests. We just held our 12th annual Pinot for the Parks wine tasting event, and money from that always goes to our endowment fund with the Oregon Community Foundation. We offer the park-loving public an opportunity to support their parks and allow for designating specific parks or city-approved park projects. For instance, only donations specifying Eco-Earth will be used for Eco-Earth. Our treasurer keeps very careful records. So 2023 has been a mix of success and frustration. We're looking forward to 2024. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carol. Appreciate it. Appreciate the update. Sounds like it was a very eventful year. And thanks for that. I know the Eco-Earth, like you said, has been a little more challenging than perhaps expected. Can you remind me, what you were trying to fundraise was $300,000. Can you remind me what the overall project cost estimate was?
The estimate was $400,000, and the city pledged $112,000, which was mostly administrative, costs along with like scaffolding and security fencing and things
Excellent.
like that.
Okay, thank you very much. I had 400 in my mind, and that I knew the city was contributing something, but wasn't sure exactly what all that was. So thank you for that clarification.
And that comes from TOT funds, the city's portion does.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll open it up to the board here. Any other questions for Carol or and the Salem Parks Foundation and their annual report? Excellent. Any comments from any members of the public that are here on this particular agenda item? All right. Well, thank you very much, Carol. Appreciate the update and all the great work that Parks Foundation is doing. So thank you for that. Looking forward to figuring out how we can continue to work with you in the year ahead.
Okay, I'll stick around for the rest of your meeting.
Great.
In the background.
Thank you. All right, next on our list is Mission Street Parks Conservancy and their quarterly update. And I see Maureen is here in the audience, I believe. There you are, Maureen.
I am here, and just a quick sound check. Can people hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Excellent, thank you. My sincere apologies for not being on video. I am actually in transit from work right now. So thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Maureen McGee, and I am the recently elected new board president of the Mission Street Parks Conservancy. You should have all received our quarterly update in your materials, and hopefully you had a time to review those. I don't necessarily have too much to add, just to state that we are very thankful to the city and the work that the city has done in recent weeks moving forward on our Woodland Garden project. We're very, very excited to be installing the new Woodland Garden in Bush Park, and the city has made excellent progress on some of the work that needed to be done on the city's end for us to be able to then take the next step in installation of new paths and plants in the Woodland Garden. And at this point, we feel like we continue to be on time to get that project done as projected by the end of this calendar year, or perhaps extending a little bit into next. But we're very, very excited about that new space that's being developed in the Woodland Garden. Other than that, we have our next board meeting coming up this Friday, and we'll be discussing just some new opportunities for bringing in additional partnerships for volunteerism in the park. And I think with that, I will just stick around for any questions that folks might have for me based on the report that we submitted in writing.
Excellent. Thank you, Maureen. Appreciate you calling in here after work hours in transit and providing that update. We did get your written report, so thank you for that. I will first open up to the board. Any questions for Maureen on her written report documents? Maureen, you mentioned the woodland garden, and I know that was also thinking about Carol's fundraising challenges, and I know this was also a fundraising effort of Mission Street Parks Conservancy. Have you been able to raise kind of the funds that you were needing to do for that relatively large undertaking at this point, or where are you at in that process?
Thank you. Yeah, we're actually very happy with where we are in the fundraising process. Of course, our fundraising goals were much lower, I think, than what Carol was reporting for their very significant and exciting project.
Yes.
But we're blessed with some really wonderful support from private donors who have had longstanding relationships with the Parks Conservancy and have really come through, particularly in the last few months, to support us in our work. And so at this point, we are very, very, very close to our fundraising goals. I think we're only a few $1,000s off from meeting our fundraising goals. And we're confident that even if we're unable to bring in that last little bit of support, that we have the funds necessary to be able to finish this project on time as projected. That doesn't necessarily indicate that the fundraising environment here in Salem is not a challenging one. I think we definitely recognize that there are some challenges, and as we're looking forward to continued development and growth in our organization, that's something that the fundraising challenges that we face in our community is definitely something that we think a lot about. But we're very happy with where we are with the Woodland Garden project.
Excellent. Very good. Any other questions or comments, thoughts? Anybody from the public have any comments on this particular agenda item? All right. Well, thank you, Maureen. Appreciate it. Congrats on your new role there, and to all the board members. Sounds like you got a decent bit of new folks involved. So looking forward to working with all of you as we move forward here.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to agenda item 5C, softball and summer recreation program overview with Melinda and Billy. Saw both of them were on here earlier. Well, Melinda.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm Melinda Moon. I run the recreation programs. Thank you for having me this evening. We had a really good season this year. Overall, our participation was up. We had about a 23% increase overall with our sports camps and various summer programming. With that increase, we still gave out 30%. Well, with that increase, we gave out about 30% of the participants received a fee waiver. So we're still providing a lot of fee waivers. We added some programming this year. We added back our all-comer track meets to the community. We also added the mini soccer program on Tuesday nights, and those were all very successful. One of the all-comer track meet nights, we had about 100 kids out there. It was really quite something. It was a lot of fun. We held them at South Salem High School. It's very central to most people in town. So that proves to be a really good venue for us. Our tennis camps continue to be popular. We had an increase in participation there as well. Our stride events, we just finished those in October. So last weekend was our last stride event. Last year we had 165 total participants. This year we had over 422. So it really increased quite a bit. Part of that was in part due to a school running club coming out and participating at Bush's Pasture Park. So that was quite a bit of fun. And now we're trying to get the word out about our holiday fun runs to the local grade schools to take advantage of their running clubs. We had movies in the park. We changed from Saturdays to Fridays, excuse me. We weren't sure how that was going to go, but it went really well. Last summer, on average, we had about 500 people there. This year, we had over 1,200 each night. And on the weekend that Hoopla was in town, there wasn't any space available for people to sit. So that was quite a shock, and it was a lot of fun to have that many people fill up the Jerry Frank Amphitheater. We had adult pickleball. So we have a lot of adults that are wanting to try it, but aren't necessarily comfortable just jumping into a group that they're not familiar with. Last year we had it at Orchard Heights alone on Thursdays. This summer we had it at Orchard Heights and then Woodmansey Park. So we took advantage of the newly renovated courts at Woodmansey, and we filled up both those nights to maximum capacity. So we were really fortunate to be able to use the courts as much as we did. Let's see, our summer parks program, we did condense it this year. So typically we host it in 4 parks, Highland, Inglewood, Sumter, and I don't know what, this is terrible. I'm forgetting our other location. I'm so sorry. It's terrible. But we decided not to go to Highland this summer. We moved everyone over to Inglewood, in part because of the trees that are available in that park. So on the hot days, we can keep the kids cooled down a little bit better. Even with eliminating one of the parks, we still had like 300 more kids this summer than we did last summer. So that program also saw a large jump in participation. We offered a new class this summer. It's tree climbing at Silver Falls. It's a contracted class. And we had about 50 people throughout the summer register. We offered a large number of classes this year just to see what people might respond to, so that we can decide if we want to continue offering that in the future, and then what days do most Salem people like to go. But that's been kind of a fun addition to what we're offering to the public. And I think that's all I have for now, unless anybody has questions.
Excellent. Thanks, Melinda. That seems like great participation numbers and increase. I think, did you say 25% overall participation increase?
23 overall. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. What do you attribute that to? Kind of coming out of pandemic participation? Is that participation level? Have you been able to look to see if that's kind of similar to pre-pandemic participation levels, or is it something else? Have we done greater levels of outreach and engagement with the community? Is it, what do you think drives that? That's a big year-over-year increase in participation.
It is. We actually anticipate, or I was a little bit worried and anticipated numbers being a little bit lower this summer, simply because we're out of COVID a little bit more, and other organizations are coming back into offering programming. So during COVID, we were one of the few agencies that offered a lot of opportunities to youth, and that summer parks program in particular offered a great opportunity for kids that was safe, and it was outside, and we were able to apply all of the standards that the governor put forth. We were able to put all of those into place and keep kids safe and staff safe as well. And then this summer, we cut back a little bit on some of our sports that we were offering, just knowing that the YMCA Boys and Girls Club might be offering more. So I was kind of surprised when we were tallying it up to see that we had such a large increase. But I think part of that was due because we started the all-comer track meets again, and those were an event that the community was really asking us to bring back last year, but we weren't because of some of the COVID parameters that were still in place. So we brought it back this year, and it was quite something. It really was a lot of fun to be out there and watch the kids and watch the families, and just be able to see all the kids interacting with each other. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. And kind of a similar question to that, I think you said 30% fee waivers. Is that kind of the standard we hit about every year in terms of participation and the number of fee waivers we give? And I asked somewhat in the context of knowing that some of the budget proposals and cuts that have been discussed involve part of the ability to make that up is increasing our fees for our Park Recs programs, and just having some concern about what the effect of that might be on the participation, and so trying to keep a sense of what that is.
It's a good question. So before community services closed, we had really high participation in tennis. So we would provide tennis programs to over 350 kids each summer. And that was quite a while ago. When Department of Community Services closed and we went to Public Works, our fees increased quite a bit. So we have never quite reached those numbers again. Last year, we had a little over 200 participants in tennis, and we gave out fee waivers. About 8% of the participants received fee waivers. This year, we had 260 kids, and we gave out 13% of the population fee waivers for those. So that one tends to kind of be a little bit low. So the numbers rise, the fee waivers go up a little bit, but it stays pretty consistent for that program. When you look at Summer Parks program, last year we gave 48% of the participants receive fee waivers. So that program, they get 100% fee waiver. This year we increased by 350 participants, and we only gave out and then 45% of the participants received fee waivers. So we actually gave out less in that program and increased participation, but that is the one program that we tend to give out the majority of fee waivers to. It's a really great deal because you get 4 hours a day, 4 days a week playing in a supervised setting in a park. And most of the time parents don't have the ability to go play for 4 hours in a park with their kids. So can you imagine being able to send your kids for 16 hours a week to go play? And that's the one that's the most popular, really. But we do great programming with that. We provide sports during the day. Like there's always 3 or 4 activities taking place at any given time. So there's sports, there's arts and crafts, there's free time. The kids can sort of bounce around a little bit. They do projects in the parks too. Like we've helped with painting picnic tables, things like that. So I think the parents feel like the kids get a lot out of it. When we have camps, like our sports camps, they get a 50% fee waiver. So that's the tennis. That's why it's only 13% that are receiving a fee waiver, because most families, they just don't pay for it. The sports camps like basketball and soccer, again, it's about 15% of the participants that receive fee waivers.
Great, thank you for that additional clarification on that particular aspect. Any other questions for Melinda? All right. Billy, were you going to talk softball, I believe?
Yes, I will. So
Excellent.
I'm
Thank you.
Billy Powers, the recreation manager for softball specifically. We just completed this Monday. It was our last night that we'll play. We were supposed to play Tuesday and then again next Monday. We would had to have done makeups, but we have field maintenance with the vendor scheduled. So with the rain on Tuesday, we pretty much finished up Tuesday night. We finished early on all the nights except Monday and Tuesday for the season. We planned on being done the last week of September. Most of them were done the third week of September due to good weather for the most part. Monday and Tuesday both have one full night left, but we will be refunding those teams a little bit of money because the vendor was scheduled to start yesterday, but the weather has delayed him. But as soon as it's nice next week, he's got to be on the fields on that night. And did my video go? Okay. Anyways,
You're back.
I'm using two
I
things
see that.
going on there twice because I don't want to make you all dizzy. I have a problem on my city laptop where I'm upside down on Zoom and it drives me nuts. So I brought it up on my iPad. So for the video side. Anyways, like I said, we finished, I'm trying to get back to my notes here. With this fall, and now spring and summer was pretty much on schedule, except for Monday. We had several weeks of rain in April, so we got most of those caught up. And except for Monday night rained the most this year, and then of course it had the rainouts the most in the fall. But we got all but one night of Monday night in for the whole year. We actually asked those teams last week to get caught up because they really should have had another week, 2 weeks left. But a bunch of them played last Wednesday and Thursday when we had fields available, and they're happy that we tried. But anyways, so fall ball game started early August, like I said, completed. Last year we did not have one rain out, heat, or smoke day, and this year in the fall. This year we had 5 or 6 of them, I believe, between the heat and the smoke at the same time. So that's kind of why we're behind finishing up fall. Otherwise, if we wouldn't have had the 2 heat days and I think 3 smoke days, we would have probably been done with everything by the 20th of September. Spring summer teams, we had 91 in those leagues, and that's up from 75 last year. Summer teams, we had 36 that played in both. They played both the summer and spring and then picked up an extra night of playing. And fall teams, we had 68, which last year we had 66. And some of those summer teams carry over into the fall the way their leagues work. We had a total of 177 teams this year, which was rated about the same as last year. League games, we were up a little bit because of these teams playing in double header leagues instead of single. And so we had 11,155 games. And tournament schedule, we scheduled 25 weekends this year. We had 6 get canceled due to weather between spring, summer, and fall, and none of them were canceled due to smoke or heat this time. And we didn't have to run our nationals at midnight because the heat that week actually stayed in a decent weather situation. We ran in July, end of July, we ran the USA Softball and Alliance Fast Pitch, which is a combination of 2 organizations working together that we helped initiate to bring them together. We ran the 12 and 16 age groups, Western Nationals for them. We had 32 teams coming from California, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, for an estimated economic impact of over $3.5 million, which is really pretty decent, seeing that over half the teams were from Oregon between here and Portland, but we picked up a lot of out-of-town teams that came in for 9 days almost. And then in late August, we also ran, we were requested to run a men's slow pitch D and E slow pitch Western Nationals, and we added the women's Northwest Open National Invitational Tournament along with it. We had 28 teams from August 25th to 27th, with teams from Alaska, California, Idaho, Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington coming. I don't have the EOC on that yet because I'm still waiting for some information to come in from the hotelers. And then 2024, we will have the USA Softball Girls 10B and 12B. That could be anywhere between 50 and 80 teams. We're kind of stressing a little about if we get to the 80, but we're going to make it work. And we're already looking at how we're going to schedule that. We will be playing a lot later in the evenings than we've been the last few years. And we're crossing our fingers we don't deal with any heat. Lindsay and I are preparing to go to Oklahoma City at the end of the month to bid on the 25 tournaments. We already have some given to us. We just have to ensure nobody else tries to take them because they get finalized in Oklahoma City. And then we'll be promoting the tournament I just told you about. Our hosted city tournaments, which we run 5 fast pitch tournaments, invitationals throughout the year that we host, the city does. We had over 140 teams this year in those 5 weekends. They were all sold out 3 to 6 months before they were hosted. We had one tournament that we had 41 teams on the waiting list. Part of it's not having enough fields and staff to work on fields. And then also the umpires, there's not enough of them that we could have taken all those teams in that one tournament. So, but we take calls daily once we fill, and people are figuring out if they want to play in a good tournament, they better enter early because we open them up in November, the first end of November, beginning of December, and they will be the 3 spring, early summer ones will be full by the end of February. And paid. They only get in if they pay. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Billy.
You're welcome.
Just for my own clarification, all of those are at Wallace Marine. Is that correct?
Yes. We play almost, 99% of our games at Wallace Marine. Sometimes on those tournaments, we'll use Orchard Heights.
Okay.
But we really have to schedule, or else you guys take a lot of calls because you put 2 teams or 2 games going on up there. That's 4 teams. That fills the parking lot up and then some. And then when your next round of teams come in, you tell them not to come till a half hour before their game, but they show up early and they're parked everywhere. We have to actually have a parking monitor now. Yep. So we generally, when we play, we're using 1 to 2 fields, big break in between and then coming back up. And then we use Bush Park if we need to, but there's only 1 field there. So.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks. I just was curious because you mentioned the kind of the shortage of the fields and opportunity there of it. So excellent. Rick, I see you've got a question.
Yeah, I just, 40 years ago in the 80s, I'm really showing my age. I did an awful lot of playing softball in, I think it was City C League. I also played Church League. I also played Co-ed League. Now, what is your makeup of leagues now?
So we, the Church League is run by the churches at churches because when the fairgrounds went away, you lost 4 fields. We had 9 back then. That was being run under a vendor at that time. And the only way they could get everybody in at Wallace at the time was for a good majority of a big league go. Our leagues now for softball for adults, we run Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights. And then we run co-ed 2 nights of the week. We have a mixture of advanced co-ed, intermediate, and then single games, which that's rec softball. Tuesday and Thursdays, we have men's league on Tuesday, it's always full, sold out. People come in the day of and we're like, we've been full for 2 weeks. I'm not sure why they wait till the deadline. We advertised it that, hey, don't wait, you won't get in. And then Thursday, our upper level, which that's kind of changed a lot because the team guys playing upper level, they want to play home run ball, and you just can't get other people that don't hit home runs that want to play. So it's kind of down a little bit. And then we have the senior league, which probably some of your old friends are still playing, right? You could come out and play. They'd love to have another member.
I'll stick to golf.
Okay, that's where a lot of our players have disappeared to, especially during COVID.
Yeah.
And then we have on Thursday night, we have a huge kickball league. It started out as a filler one year when we were a little short. We averaged 68 to 75 teams a year playing in 3 sessions. And it's everybody from a 15-year-old playing with his grandpa to, we have one team that all they're out there to do is to see who can have the best costume each week because they set a theme and play, which we do have a softball team that does that too. But these
I've
guys
seen that on the softball field.
So
We, back in the 80s, we played most of our games at the fairgrounds.
yeah.
And we actually, the co-ed was in Wallace Marine, but that was before they built the complex. What is the chances that more fields are going to be? No, I heard rumors about something somewhere in northeast Salem. But what are the chances of more fields being developed?
Rob, would you like to answer that?
Hi, Member Hartwig, I believe what you heard about is a property we have in reserve for a future park development in Northeast Salem off of Hazel Green Road.
Right.
We are scheduled to begin a master plan for that. I believe it's next year. It might be the following year. I think that'll be the first step toward development, but likely several years away at least. The funds will have to be secured and all that. But yep, that is true. We have acquired a property Northeast Salem off of Hazel Green Road. It is a large site and it is very flat, and these are good characteristics for fields.
Okay, great. Yeah. Hopefully in my lifetime.
Rob's
Right.
promised me it'll be in my lifetime in my career.
Okay. Thanks.
He crosses his finger every time he says it, though.
And thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you for playing in the past. And if you ever want to come out and visit, just let us know. We'll have you out.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Billy on the softball front? I'll reiterate what Rick said. Thanks for what you
All right.
guys do.
Thank you.
It's good. I play in the softball leagues each summer and have a blast. So it's a good time.
And Keith's name doesn't come up on the ones we have to call to tell him he has to behave better.
Hopefully not. We tend to be more on the certainly not playing the home run ball team. That's not our style. So, or at least not mine.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Billy. And I'm gonna pause real quick. Alan Holland, I think, is joined as a additional board member. Alan, are you there? I saw you hopped in and out a couple of times.
Yeah. Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, I'm on the side and I'm in Portland and having a little difficulty following on this. You had to join in late. I will be on the side, and if I find I need to input something, I'll try to do so.
Sounds good. Well,
thank
thanks
you.
for, just wanted to acknowledge that we had another board member in the room and listening. So Alan is there.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Next up is a discussion that we started last week, or I'm sorry, last meeting on the FY24 city budget. And this is, we have a proposed letter that we talked about, and this Debbie brought this up earlier in terms of our minutes from last meeting. where Debbie and Dylan and I worked together on drafting a letter to City Council regarding the city budget revisions. And I believe you all received a copy of that letter a few days ago. And this is our chance to kind of take any additional input from the board on that. And then we'll take a vote to approve that letter if there is such a motion to do so. The letter really just strives to recognize the challenging situation that the city is in terms of the budget and provide some empathy for that, while at the same time emphasizing the importance of funding our parks and minimizing any potential cuts to the parks. I think we also have a line in there that talks about if there are any cuts to the parks, we certainly encourage them to have a plan in place to recover those services for the parks as they move forward into better budget situations in the future. I presume you've all had a chance to review that letter, but any questions or comments on it? Rick, go for it.
Yeah, I thought it was extremely well written. I was, I wasn't at the last meeting because I was abroad. And it was a great trip, by the way.
Good.
And I got out of Paris before the bed bugs. But I thought it was extremely well written. I totally support it and would not hesitate to move that we approve it.
Should I take that as a motion, Rick?
Sure. I move we approve the letter to the city council.
All right, thank you, Rick. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Woody. Any further discussion on the letter? We still have a chance, with the motion, we can now formally discuss the letter and any changes to it. Debbie.
I just noticed when I was rereading it that well-being is wrong. It's one word on there, and I looked it up on Webster and all that, and that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be hyphenated, but that was just a minor correction that I hadn't noticed the first time.
We will assume that approval of the letter comes with any sort of copy editing that is necessary. Thank you for catching that, though. I feel a little ashamed I didn't catch it because part of my day job is to be an editor, so it's a little embarrassing. Alan, I saw you had a question as well.
Oh, if that was me, yes, I didn't have a question. I also happened to notice that, and I wasn't sure I was going to ask you for clarification on that word, but I think it's an excellent letter. I think it strikes to the points we're trying to move, and I just have to, having been around the city for some years, I always think it's sad whenever money gets tight, parks and libraries are the first one to feel the axe, and I think there are other alternatives. So anyway, I think it's an excellent letter, and I hope it's well received.
All righty, Woody.
Yeah, I too think it's a very excellent letter, and this all kind of reminds me of when I got laid off from Parks Department in 1980, and when they were trying to do a tax thing, and it failed, and it really cut the department. Well, it halved our tree operations, cut us in half, and it took forever to get a lot of it back, and there's some stuff that's still not back. So the concern I have is once stuff is gone, it's how hard it is to get back. So we need to concentrate on what can be brought back at the easiest possible, when money comes available. So
thank you. All right, I will do a roll call vote on this one, and we'll start with Rick.
Aye.
Alan, Alexander.
Aye. Both. Well,
Woody.
aye.
Debbie.
Aye.
And Alan Holland. If you can chime in. Not seeing the unmute work for him, but that's okay. We still have a quorum.
Yes, yes.
There you are. Perfect. Thank you.
It takes me a while to find this thing.
That's fine. and I'm an I as well. So we'll get that letter tidied up with at least the one typo caught, and we'll give it another read here to see if there's any additional copy editing and get that sent off. So thanks to Debbie and Dylan for their work largely in pulling that together. And I think it's a good effort for us to kind of show our support for parks and our continued prioritization of those in the city's budget discussions. All right. Next up, we have the discussion of the board strategic planning survey, and I'm going to assume this is Rob.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
On the SRAB's work plan for 2023, this is an item. It was an opportunity to conduct a survey of the board members to help inform next year's work plan. That's essentially would be the purpose. And so this is on the agenda for the members to have an opportunity to discuss their interest in doing that this year. Before I stop speaking, though, I want to just put a little bug in your ear. Next year, we will be kicking off the process of updating the park system plan, and that's going to be quite a lot of effort. And I have plans for all of you to be involved in that. So you may wonder if perhaps this survey is needed or not. I'll just throw that out there. But with that, I will here to answer any questions.
Excellent. Can you, and Rob, Dylan probably would know recall more than I do on this, but we did this, did we do this survey last year as part of our work planning effort?
Yeah, last year the board had a retreat.
Right.
And the idea is that every other year we would do a survey and not necessarily a retreat every year. So this year that would be the option. It's been used in the past to identify topics for committee work and things like that.
Okay, excellent. Any thoughts on that from board members on the utility of this survey of the board itself, and kind of providing an opportunity for kind of written and thoughts on where we can go over the next year? Alan? Yeah, Alan Alexander. Go for it.
Okay. I think we should endeavor to try to do this. We at our retreat last year, we talked about we were looking for greater opportunities to provide input into some of the programs and thoughts in parks and recreation. And I think if we're going to do that, we need to live up to responsibility and be very active in this survey. And it's a chance to make our ideas known and thoughts known without the time and expense of a retreat every year. So I'm all for it.
All right. Any other thoughts? Debbie?
I just would like to try to catch those neighborhood associations that we didn't catch. Just make a list of those and try to volunteer to reach out to those neighborhoods before the SPIF grants.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the survey effort and kind of providing that more formal, I guess, opportunity for board members to provide their strategic thought on our work plan for next year? Okay. I tend to agree with Alan. I think it's a good opportunity for us to kind of build on some of the momentum and things that we've tried out this year, and one of those, Debbie, being the neighborhood association outreach, and to kind of hear from you all on the utility of that. Rob, I'm gonna go back to you in terms of development of and distribution of this particular survey effort of the board members. Is that something we would or could lean on you for, or is that something that perhaps I, as the vice chair, should work with Dylan as the chair to craft?
You know, if the chair and the vice chair wanted to craft something as a starting point, I'd be happy to take it from there, or otherwise I'm happy to support the board any way you need me to.
Okay, excellent. And is this does the city have a platform, or would this be kind of whatever we want to in terms of how the survey would come out and be filled out?
Yeah, in turn, when it comes to actually implementing the survey, that absolutely will be me. The city has a software called Alchemer. It's a very full service online survey software, will meet all your needs.
Perfect. So we can work together on developing that, and then you can distribute it to the board. Perfect. I will, I'll circle up with Dylan and see what we can craft together for that. And we'll coordinate with you on that, Rob, as well. That works. Excellent. Debbie, I do want to come back to your neighborhood association comment. We'll do that and kind of the board member updates as well, because I know a few of us, myself included, have been to some neighborhood associations, and so that'll be our time to talk about that. Next up on the agenda is a discussion on our annual report. And I think I'll turn this over to Rob as well, at least for an initial overview of the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Annually, the board prepares a report and it is sent to city council. And as of last year, it comes out to the city council as a special order of business. So the chair has an opportunity to present it. So I assume the same will be occurring this year. So there's really two components to the annual report. There's the actual PDF document that gets produced with support from city staff. And then there is a presentation that the chair will deliver to city council. Having it on the agenda this evening is really an opportunity to discuss anything the board would like to see different than last year. Otherwise, staff can get going drafting something very similar last year. However, I do anticipate you'll want to put a spotlight on your outreach to the neighborhood associations. So that's certainly in there as well. And also the efforts just this week with the 10-mile walk and the celebration of National Walk to Park Day, excuse me. Those will likely be also spotlighted in the report. But anything that the board would like to see different or changed or mixed up a little, that's the purpose of tonight's discussion.
Great, thank you, Rob. And I agree. I think those are two key elements to make sure we can to highlight those components of our work this year. And did you have another thought there? Did I cut you off? No, good. Okay. Thoughts from other board members on kind of the compiling of our annual report?
Yes, can I jump in?
Please go for it, Alan.
I think that it might be worthwhile to mention in the report how wild animals are being managed in terms of the cougars and the bobcats and things that are making their presence in some of our parks. Just as a mention of whether they are being, how they're being managed. The beavers, cougars, bobcats, those kinds of things. What's the policy or practices that are being done there? Because the presence of them seems to be somewhat increasing of late for some reason. That's the only thing I can imagine being added if it's not already intended to be included. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alan, for that input. I think that is a good topic for us to discuss and maybe to bring forward in a future board meeting, kind of how wildlife are managed or encountered in our parks, and kind of what the policies are around that. I know the beaver policy is one that's been underway within the city for a while that I occasionally ask about. That's a little different than cougars. As a wildlife guy, though, I am particularly interested. I wonder if maybe that because SPRAB has not done anything in particular with that particular aspect of parks, if that shouldn't go in our annual report this year, but might be something we can dive into, and that you can provide feedback into the strategic planning survey for next year of kind of a topic that we should explore a little bit further as a parks board.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's something that should be a major effort of expansion in any way. I just thought it would be reasonable for somebody reading it to know that signs are being posted and citizens being warned, and whenever they get a report, and pretty much that's it. And I think that's probably the max that we really need to do, but it's not being ignored. I know that. That's good.
Any other thoughts on the annual report? I know last year, our previous annual report, we had done a decent bit of kind of reworking of it from the prior year's reports, and so we did a bit more of an overhaul in the last for the last time around. So one may not be needed this time if we kind of hit the mark correctly the last time around. So, but perhaps Rob, would it be fine to kind of give folks a few more days to send you thoughts on any sort of edits for that? If you can maybe send around last year's report again to us. I'm sure we all have it saved in our computer somewhere. I know I do. I just, where would be the question? And so if you could send that back around so we have that at our forefront, kind of take a look at that and provide you any sort of feedback maybe in the next week, if that's kind of an acceptable timeline for you on where you're at with it.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Perfect. Debbie.
Yeah, I just want to know, the annual report is what SPRAB is up to. Is that kind of the purpose of it? Okay.
Correct. So it's a Parks Board annual report, and it gets submitted to City Council. As Rob said, that goes in. They'll get the PDF of the report, but then the chair will also have a chance to present to City Council, making sure they're aware of the activities we've been up to throughout the year as a Parks Board, which is different than the Parks Department, right? And the Parks staff in terms of their annual reporting and efforts.
So do they want to know like things that the park that we did it as a board, or as we did as individual board members, or, you know, I'm not sure, because we were working on the micro mobility stuff. That was a subcommittee that we were working on that we haven't finished yet, but and then there's, you know, I know a lot of people have gone to different activities and tree plantings, and, you know, I was interviewed for the 90 Parks in 90 Days thing, and I don't know if that's the kind of stuff we want to include or just what they were doing as a board.
I think we can include those individual efforts, right? Those are all done under the purview of the board and through your role on the board. And so even those pieces that are kind of works in progress and may not be completed by the end of the year, I think those, from my perspective, would be good to include and to emphasize as some of the activities and things that we are exploring. I don't know if anybody else has other thoughts on that. I don't need to be the definitive voice on there, but that's my perspective on it. And so I think good, Debbie, to highlight those, and I think Rob is kind of the staff is crafting it, if those are things that they can kind of keep in mind, those various committees that have been set up and worked on. And then folks, as we're reviewing it, then we can make sure that all those various elements have been included. We'll have a chance to review the annual report and provide any sort of feedback as well as it's being drafted. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at what Mickey just sent in the chats, but I think that would be very appropriate to put into the report.
Excellent. And so highlighting the participation in programs in the sports camps and number of attendees which receive financial assistance.
Yeah, especially the financial assistance.
Yep.
We want to make this all of those activities be available to all residents.
Thank you. Any additional thoughts? And I should acknowledge that Al Holland had to leave to catch a plane, so he was able to join us for briefly, but he is now departed. All right. Is that some good guidance, at least at this point, Rob, heading forward?
Sounds great. I think I have lots to work with there.
Perfect. Okay. Next agenda item is board member updates. Anybody have any updates on their activities, particularly in regards to neighborhood association outreach? Yeah, Debbie.
Well, I was supposed to meet with Grant on Thursday, but I got COVID on Thursday, so we rescheduled it for November. So hopefully I'll be
Okay.
well enough to do it next month, but that's the last one I have scheduled.
Okay. Excellent. Debbie, you made a mention earlier about outreach and hoping we can complete those before SPIF. Just as a reminder for folks, the SPIF, the letters of intent are due at the end of this month. And so for those neighborhood associations like that one, you might just send them a reminder since you won't be able to present to them before the deadline, that the deadline for those grants is letter of intent is end of this month.
I will do that.
Perfect. Sorry, I saw somebody else's hand. Who's Alan? Go for it. You are muted, Alan.
I completed I made the presentation to the Sunny Slope Board. It was well received. A lot of questions, particularly about the SPIF program. Because of scheduling conflict, I couldn't do can do by this month, but I am on the November agenda for can do. I did offer, I reminded the chair that that letter of intent was due by the end of this month. And if he had any questions or had any I could help with that, I'd be glad to. And I haven't heard back from him on that. So, but he's aware that of the due date on the letter of intent. I think there's more activity, and with more knowledge about the SWIFT program. I think because some of the neighborhood associations seldom ever use that program, and I'm hoping that some will because it's a great program.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. Rick?
Yeah, I finished my presentations last night, in fact. And one thing that I have come to realize is that not all neighborhood associations are equal. Some are very well organized with a lot of board members with different positions and different responsibilities. I didn't have to tell them about SPIF or anything. They were on it. They knew about it. They've used it. And then, you know, there seem to be neighborhood associations that are barely hanging on by a thread in terms of having any attendance at all. So I don't know how we could help those neighborhood associations that need help. But you know, it really brought home to me the fact that not all of them are created equal, and not all of them are thriving, and maybe it's just getting the word out and publicity or whatever for them. But I don't know the answers. I just know the question. So, but anyway, I'm done with my presentation responsibilities and feel pretty good about that. So
good, thanks, Rick. And I think you're right, and I think in terms of our involvement in neighborhood associations, hopefully by presenting to those groups and better connecting with them, that we're helping increase the value of participation in those neighborhood associations by showing folks how they can help improve the city by engaging there. So myself, I also had a presentation last night to the South Central Association of Neighbors. Went really well. It was a good group. They are very organized and vibrant neighborhood association. And so had a good discussion with them, a number of items of kind of follow-up that came up about parks during my presentation, not necessarily related to it, that I'm going to follow up with Rob on to make sure I can get some of those questions answered for him. But overall, a good question or good discussion with them. So thanks to all of you for your efforts in doing that outreach to those neighborhood associations. I think it's been a good effort that we started as a board this year, and has been well received, and has helped develop greater engagement with our parks and awareness of our board and opportunities that these neighborhood associations have to enhance our parks. So it's good to see, and it's good to see how much the folks in those neighborhoods care about the parks within their neighborhoods. It's certainly a passionate topic among them. And I think, Rob, with at the end of this month, maybe with Debbie's rescheduling, we won't quite hit it, but I think we're at 11 or 12 of the neighborhood associations that we've been able to connect with and present to. Is that accurate?
That's right. With the two pending presentations, and there's one I have to follow up with member Holland. I'm not quite sure if he made it to the West Salem or not, but assuming he did, and those other 2 presentations before, we'll have 12.
We'll have 12, excellent, of the 17. So that's pretty good. I know I have one that I haven't been able to connect with and get scheduled yet. And so there's always going to be those. So I'm pretty pleased with that we've been able to connect with 12 out of the 17. So well done on that, folks. I think the only other update I have was just kind of reiteration of the Walk to a Park Day and how successful that was. So thanks, Rick. Glad you were able to be there with Dylan and kind of be there on behalf of the board and representing us with the counselors and the mayor and all of the 5th graders. I saw some photos from that event. I know there was a good Statesman Journal article about it, and I think it was a great showcasing opportunity and a good effort for us to be behind. And I know Dylan is interested in kind of making sure that we can help push that event and that idea of parks within a 10-minute walk of all residents into the future here. So any other updates from board? Okay, with that, we will start into the information reports. We had a couple of information reports. Parks planning, I will turn that over to Rob.
Hey, I'm just going to add a few remarks, not much tonight, but in addition to my written report, just tying off of what Vice Chair Norris just said. It was a fantastic event on Tuesday. If you haven't had a chance to see the video the city produced, it's about 1.5 minutes long, has some great sound bites from Chair McDowell. I dropped the link to the city's Facebook page. If you just scroll down 2 days, you'll see that video there. I encourage you to check that out. The chair, he had kind of addressed why we had this event. It's about bringing attention to the park equity gap in Salem. And that's a really good segue to what I want to talk about, which is going to be on your agenda next month. And that's a presentation about the Park System Master Plan update. It is an update to focused on equity. I mean, that is why we're doing it. That's the purpose of the update. And I'll have a lot more information for you in my presentation next month. That's all I have tonight. If there's any questions, please feel free to let me know.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob, and looking forward to that presentation next month on the master update. Any questions for Rob about the event or about the written survey or written report? All right. Operations update. I don't know that we had an operations written report in this one, but anybody want to have a verbal report for us, Jennifer?
I'm to prepare. Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. I'm not turning my camera on. I'm sorry, I'm driving at the time. So a couple things. There was just some recent conversation relative to the SPIF program. Just so that folks know, as you're talking to neighborhood associations, I thought I might update you kind of procedurally on some things that we do in preparation for that. So the beginning of September, I do send an email out about the SPIF program with all of the various attachments, from letters of intent to final applications to the guidelines surrounding SPIF. I send that out at the beginning of September to all neighborhood associations chairs, co-chairs, and vice chairs. And then of special note, reminding them that kind of the first deadline, as you folks referenced, is the October 31st deadline when letters of intent are due for us to review. I then as well send them a reminder about a week to 2 weeks prior to the deadlines, any deadlines that are established, so that they again have an opportunity to still get their applications in, should that may have been a delay on their end for one reason or another. So I do send those reminders. So it's great that you folks are sharing that with the neighborhood association, but I thought that might be helpful to let you know what we do on our end. I also would encourage you that as neighborhood associations are having questions relative to SPIF or maybe what types of projects I would encourage you to have them reach out to me. We provide support to them when they do email us about some project ideas or any kind of clarifying questions that they might have. So we're happy to provide that kind of assistance to them. So if that's helpful, you can certainly direct them our way, and we'll continue to provide guidance in that manner. The other thing I might encourage is, I know at the last SPRAB meeting, and I think additionally as a separate document, it was sent to you, kind of the Parks and Recreation org chart that is in place now, that especially as we're part of community services, that might be a nice informational document that as you're attending the neighborhood association meetings, in providing them that information, that might be a useful tool for them. Sometimes they don't know who to contact and who kind of is responsible for what. So that might be a useful tool, not only for you folks to use, but for neighborhood associations to use. So it might expedite questions and responses that they might want relative to issues in their parks umbrella. So if that's a useful tool, or then please feel free to use that as well. And then just kind of the last thing is, on Tuesday, the city is in the process of their charitable giving campaign. It runs through the beginning part of November. For community services, we did kind of a Taco Tuesday, kind of as our first event under community services. The two donations that we highlighted for participants was the Salem Parks Foundation, as well as the Friends of Center 50 Plus. So that is folks participated in that Taco Tuesday event, that half of the proceeds would go to one of the ability to, for half of those proceeds, to select one of those two donations. So Parks Foundation will be on the receiving end of some additional donation and funding. And once we get kind of that final number, then I'll share that with SPRAB, kind of how we did on that, just for an informational purpose. And then of course, share that with Parks Foundation. So that's about all I have. If you should have any questions, I'm happy to address those.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. And that's good news and great selection on those charitable outputs there. I see Carol still on the line, so I imagine she is happy to hear that she'll be on the receiving end of that charitable effort from the city. So thank you for that. And I think that is probably she is very happy about it. I hope that was a good team building event there for you as well, as kind of the first event for the community services department. So good to see. Any questions for Jennifer on her report or on parks operations?
I just wondered if she could send a link to the informational stuff she was talking about that we could share with the people at the neighborhood associations.
Yes, that was the org chart. And I believe that has been sent around to SPRAB previously by Rob. I don't know that it's publicly available online. Is that Jennifer? Sorry, I'm cutting you off there. Go for it, Jennifer.
No. Oh, that's fine. We're going to publish it as well on the community services web page. Work through our IT folks to do that, but that has not happened yet. You're correct on that. But okay. We're happy to resend it again if it makes it more easily available. We're happy to send it again as a separate document so that you have it as a reference.
Perfect, thanks. And yeah, and when that link gets created, that would be useful. But until then, yeah, maybe Rob, if you can add that to our post-meeting documents alongside the previous year's annual report, that would be helpful. Excellent. Any other questions for Jennifer? All right. Recreation services update. Becky, take it away.
Good evening. You've heard quite a bit about and from recreation tonight. So I just wanted to, there's 3 topics or items that I wanted to just kind of remind in the case of the first one, and that is there was comment earlier in the meeting about the new building, Parks and Recreation. We are, that's move is occurring in phases, and we're due to move out there the last weekend of the month on October 27th. So we're starting to pare down our materials and get ready for that move. And then item 2, it has been confirmed that the holiday tree lighting that normally takes place at Riverfront Park, usually that first Friday of December, we're pushing it back to be on Friday, December 8th. It's also the Friday of the Jingle Bell relay that's going on that Melinda is doing. So the holiday parade that was done last year, first year in downtown Salem by Salem Main Street Association, they've moved that parade to the first Friday, December 1st. So we didn't want to conflict with it. So we moved our event back to the 8th. And then last, an update that I had put in my report, but it has been confirmed that the Salem Art Fair and Festival is indeed moving from the 3rd weekend in July to the 2nd full weekend in September. So that will take place next year in 2024 on September 13th, 14th, and 15th. So that was a move to try to avoid the heat of July now that they've moved out into that open meadow area off of High Street. They just found that it's just too hot for their vendors and their artwork. So they're hoping that move to September will help. So that is it. Unless there's questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Great, thank you, Becky. Any questions for Becky in the recreation report? All right. Well, best of luck with the move at the end of this month. I don't know if that's better or worse than like moving homes. I just like, I don't know if I had to move my office stuff, that could get that stuff builds up. So best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoy the new place, new office building. Excellent. Urban forestry, Mylan. Any updates on the urban forestry side?
Hi, Keith.
Hello.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I didn't provide a report, but I can certainly give you guys some updates if you'd like a few.
Yeah, just quick highlights would be great. Thank you.
Okay. We got awarded the IRA USDA Urban and Community Forestry Resiliency grant. We applied for $8.7 million grant. We got $1 million in grant funds. So we're going to work on sort of a restructure with an admin representative from the USDA, myself and Jennifer Mongolo, and sort of restructuring and set some new parameters and some new goals for how we're going to spend the $1 million based on our previous grant application. So that's coming up. So I can share that once we restructure that and sort of have our new goals set. Heritage tree nomination, I was going to provide that this time, but I'm going to meet with the tribal roundtable with Kimberly Fitzgerald, historic preservation manager for the city, because we want to include the tribes with the nomination we're doing in Bush Park. We're going to nominate the Lower LaFell Oak Grove. It has a lot of cultural significance, and so we wanted to sort of just include the tribes a little bit and how we were going to promote that as a heritage grove, sort of the cultural significance of being related to the Californian people, and maybe how we're going to manage that grove. So I'll have more on that in November, meeting with them the second Tuesday in November. So I'll have some information for the next SCRAB report, and I think Rob's going to put that on the agenda. We're 1 year into our ice storm restoration project, where we were able to hire 4 staff and got funds for replanting and got to buy some equipment. So 1 year into our a year and a half program. So it's coming sort of circling back, and we'll have some information once that's over. Where our goal was to plant 1,000 trees, to grind over 1,000 stumps, and we've already grinded over 1,000 stumps and planted over 900 trees, and we've almost reached our goal in a year of the year and a half project. So that's great. Just some news on some development project review meeting I'm in actually with Rob now, with community development planners, development services, some higher level engineers and some project managers within the city, and the new construction manager for the city, that through, us pushing to have more tree protection on a lot of our city projects, with the help of Woody. Woody and I have worked a lot on this the last year, highlighting some of the sort of the missteps in tree protection and shortcomings and sort of oversight. We've actually got our own public works project manager working with us now specifically on projects, and we're in some of these development review projects, and hopefully going to be on a lot of the review process way ahead of some of these projects. So that's really good news for tree protection citywide as far as street trees. And I will just add really quick that the $1 million that we got grant funds for will be spent, 100% of that will be in low equity neighborhoods. That was a big part of the grant, and we're going to be using what's called the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool, which is basically a tool that identifies disadvantaged and underserved and overburdened communities, overburdened by pollution. So that's something we'll be focusing on, using a map tool provided by the USDA on sort of low equity neighborhoods. So that $1 million would be entirely spent in low equity neighborhoods.
Excellent. Thanks, Mylan. That's congrats on that grant. That'll be good work, and on the ice storm restoration progress. That's excellent work in a year's time frame. So any questions for Mylan on his report? All right, well, we're looking forward to the Heritage Tree nomination next month. Thanks, Mylan. The last one on our agenda is the Parks Damage Report. I don't think we had the written report on that, but maybe we can just get that added in to next month's report. That usually is just a kind of summation of that. But any comments from staff on that particular informational report?
No, we'll go ahead and make sure we provide that update next month. Make sure you get that timely.
Perfect. Thanks, Jennifer. All right. Any new business from the board? All right. Well, with that, our next meeting will be November 9th. And I think we can probably adjourn. Thank you all for your participation this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of